What's up? And welcome to the review for Friday the 13th, Part 3, 3D. Whole lot of that in this movie. Before I get into it, make sure you go down, hit that like button, show the channel some love. Trying to grow here. It's just as up to you guys as it is me. It's a group effort. And make sure you hit that subscribe button. And we'll continue to make content like this. That being said, this is the third review so far in the What's Your Favorite Scary Movie Road to Halloween. For those who don't know what I'm doing, go check out my previous videos or my social media. I've already covered it several times, and I don't want to regurgitate what I'm saying in every single video. So that being said, Friday the 13th Part 3. What do I think of it? Well, it's pretty in line with Friday the 13th, the rest of the other Friday the 13th movies up to this point. Story, character development, not a lot happening. The movie opens with this funny couple that was actually pretty funny. I can't for the life of me remember the wife's name, but there's a guy named Harold, and he's got an eating problem. This is a pretty hokey movie. Actually, it's got a lot of comedy in it. So. Opens with this couple who's kind of near Crystal Lake. We get your typical previously on Friday the 13th recap, and wife is watching the news. She's got her perm on, and she's watching the news, and she hears about what happens, and she's constantly just yelling at the husband. The husband's just a goofy kind of guy, wants to eat everything. That's a problem I can relate to. So he's constantly eating stuff and constantly eating junk, and so constantly he's just kind of walking around, just doing a whole lot of nothing. Finds a rabbit in the little stand that they got, and brings the rabbit back home, and only to be scared shit out of him, literally, by a snake. Snake jumps out 3D, and then as he's taking a shit, he gets up, hears something. Jason gets up and kills him, and then the wife comes. She sees a rat. She freaks out. Jason kills her. So there you go. There's your opening. Not a whole lot going on. One thing I will say about this opening scene, it reminds me a lot of Halloween Part 2. The way that movie's opening, the wife kind of dressed similarly. Husband kind of a goofy guy, and it's more so in the way that Jason is shot. The way that Jason is shot reminds me a lot of Halloween and Michael Myers. The way that they use him in the shadows, the way he's kind of there, not there. You don't see him clearly.
Jesus Christ, Harold.
Very Halloween vibes. So then after we get that, we meet your new group of teenagers. We got Chrissy, the final girl. I'm trying to remember everybody's names. So we got your typical jock, we got your typical promiscuous girl, and then we got your comic relief, the hopeless romantic goofy guy. So you get all your stereotypical Friday the 13th slasher movie characters, and there's nothing. Once again, nothing really memorable. Oh, my two favorite of these new group are the hippies, the stoners. They were hilarious. They had me rolling anytime they're on screen. Even at the end, which I'll get to. They're unintentionally hilarious sometimes. But so we get to there, and then we get to the new camp. There's no explanation of what happened to the last camp or where we are now. We're just at this place. So the final girl had an incident happen where she showed. So they all get there, and the final girl kind of is kind of hiding something from her boyfriend, who we're not introduced to until we get to the camp, and then we're introduced to him. His name is Rick. It's Rick. Paul's the last movie. So Rick, and he's trying to get it to open up. You know, she's very shy. She's kind of hiding something. We'll get to that later. So you get three comic relief characters: the Shelly and the Stoners. They're all kind of funny in their own way. And then this is where this movie once again just kind of the first half, there's just nothing going on. There's a whole lot of this. Hey, look at this 3D. A whole lot of getting to the camp, a whole lot of meandering around. Then Shelly ends up playing a joke on everybody. This is where kind of the first bit of entertainment happens up to this point. Outside of the very beginning. So we get to he plays a joke. He has an axe in his head. They find him in a closet. They open the door. He falls out. He's on the ground. Everybody thinks he's dead, except for his roommate, who is the jock, and the jock kind of tickles him, which is weird. Tickles him, and he pops up, and he always laughs. Everybody's pissed at him. Final girl wanders off. They go talking. They're like, "Oh, he doesn't know what happened. No, blah 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 blah." Okay, cool. Then we go to and then we kind of the girl that he was supposed to be dating, or his date for the weekend. I can't remember her name. I'm sorry, the Friday the 13th characters are really forgettable. But she decides that she wants to get away for a bit, so she asks the final girl's boyfriend Rick if she can use his car. Ask a complete stranger to use their car when you could have just used the van that you came in with. I don't know. So she goes, and then Shelly goes with her, and when they get into the town, they run into a motorcycle gang. The girl needs money. Shelly tosses his wallet to her, and this girl Fox ends up picking it up, and she's like, "I'll take that." She's like, meaning the wallet, and then the girl's like, "Oh, I'll take that back." And she's like, "You're supposed to ask nicely." And she's like, "May I please have the wallet?" She's like, "May please have the wallet, ma'am." There's two guys they're holding Shelly, so he can't go anywhere. And they end up going outside, and they end up leaving, and Shelly's driving, so he ends up backing into their bikes, and this end up being pretty funny. So they pull up. They're like, "Shit, let's go." The girl's like, "Let's go." So instead of going around, one of the guys comes out. I guess kind of the leader of the group. He kind of just walks out, and he stops in front of the car. Instead of just going around them, they just stop right there, and the guy kind of stops, looks at them, smiles. He's got a chain wrapped around his hand, so he punches through both of the windows. They take off, and then Shelly stops, turns around, and he's like, "No, they went too far this time." Turns around, goes and hits their bike, and then that's it. They go back to camp. It was pretty funny. That was a pretty funny scene. So we get back to the camp, and once we're back at the camp now, we get a heavy emphasis on a barn. There's a random barn that is at the camp that we've never seen before. There's no context of what this barn means, but man, does it take a heavy focus in the movie. Every major plot point, most of the kills take place in this barn. That's why it's part of the reason why this movie kind of drags ass for the first half. It's just like everything back to the barn. We gotta go back to the barn. Yeah, I don't know. It's okay. So we finally get back, and the jock and his girl end up going down to the lake to do whatever, and the motorcycle gang comes. And how they found it, who knows? But they end up finding them, and they end up taking the leader ends up taking the gas out of their van, and he wants to dump it all over the barn. Where I'm assuming he was gonna set the barn on fire, and yeah, who knows? But we get there, and then they end up getting into the barn, and Jason ends up killing all of them, just one right after another. So it's a whole bunch of side characters. The whole second half of the movie, it kind of takes a heavy focus on this gang in the barn, and they're just killed off in 10 minutes. I think we could have used this movie. Could have used these characters in a better way. We could have had a really cool thing where. We get one of the biker members is killed as they're kind of stuck around, roaming around the woods, and then one of the counselors, one of the new kids is killed, and we get this kind of clash between the two, where Jason's the one who's going around doing everything, but no, it's just like here's this gang, they're there for 5 minutes, and then boom, they're just gone. So. After that, we kind of transition into the third act, where the girlfriend starts to finally open up. So she had spent the night with her boyfriend, and they end up going back. After she went home, she gets into a fight with her parents. Her parents end up. It's a pretty big fight supposedly, so she ends up leaving, and she ends up going into the woods. So after she goes into the woods, she said she finds an oak tree, and she sat behind the oak tree and fell asleep on the oak tree, and she woke up to the sound of footsteps, and we get this scene where she's being chased through the woods and by Jason. Jason doesn't have a mask on, so you see his face and everything. And she tries to fight him off, but he ends up dragging her away, and then she says she blacks out. She doesn't remember what happened. So that's a really I don't like it. That's a really on the nose kind of reference. I'm not gonna y'all can put the two together. I'm not gonna talk about it. Yeah, I don't know. For a Friday the 13th movie and for Jason, it just feels a bit off. So now we get to the third act, and everybody starts dying. You got the slasher movie, Friday the 13th movie. Everybody starts dying. But this is where the coolest thing happens for this movie. So Shelly ends up trying to hook up with the girl that he was supposed to be dating, and she says she rejects him. So he ends up going into the water and pulling another prank on her, but he's got a hockey mask on. So he ends up leaving and going back into the barn. Jason kills him, and now Jason's got the hockey mask. Now we get the iconic. Now Jason's fully established, and Jason is a menace in this movie. This is like probably one of I still got a ways to go in the franchise, but this is the best performance of a killer up to this point, in my opinion. Jason is a big hulking dude. He's scary looking. This is what I like. The only problem is they used him in the wrong movie. This performance of Jason is used in the wrong movie. This movie, like I said earlier, this movie is very hokey. it's funny. There is some entertainment to be had with it, but story character wise, there's not a lot happening. So everybody gets we get some pretty standard run of the mill kills. One lady do gets a machete in half. Um, the one lady gets a fire poker in the chest. Yeah, machete, fire poker. It's all pretty standard kills. Nothing to write home about. One part that was funny was that it did make me laugh was the stoner, one of the stoners, the lady stoner. When she finds everybody dead, her going through the house and her acting in that scene was so ridiculous and so over the top. I couldn't help but laugh. See, what is supposed to be an intense scene, you find all your friends dead for the weekend, like, oh, there's supposed to be like this oh shit moment, but no, it is so corny. The acting is so corny that you can't help but laugh. And you're not supposed to laugh in this moment. So that's kind of the problem that I have with these Friday the 13th movies up to this point. So we get to, and now the final girl and Chris. So Chris, I'm gonna start calling her Chris. That's her name. I'm gonna stop calling her the final girl. Chris and Rick are starting to make their way back to the cabin, and everything happens. She goes in the house. They can't find anybody. The boyfriend goes outside. The boyfriend ends up dying. This is the most memorable kill of the movie. So he goes outside. Jason has him like this, so he's covering his mouth. He's got a hold of him. He's covering his mouth so he can't scream. Chris walks outside, and she's looking for him. And after she can't find him, it's raining, windy, whatever. We'll go with that. And Jason ends up grabbing him and popping his head, and you see like the 3D eyeball effects pop out of his head. That was cool. The 3D doesn't work because obviously you're not watching it in 3D. There's a whole lot of this, but of all the 3D effects, that was probably the coolest moment. So then we get the showdown, the final showdown. Chrissy and Jason in the barn. Surprise, surprise. And so we get to the barn. She's hanging, the whole thing of she hanging around, Chase. She kind of hiding. It's a game of cat and mouse in the barn. She ends up climbing up the ladder. Ends up hitting Jason in the head with a shovel. He goes down. She ends up hanging him. She goes downstairs, opens the door. Jason pops up, grabs the rope, kind of pulls himself up, and she realizes, like, oh shit, he's alive. And then he pulls his mask up. It shows that it was the same guy that chased her a couple of years back. So this is a few years before was the event of when she was chased. So she came back. Why you would go back to this place, I don't know. So she ends up doing that, and then all of a sudden, as Jason frees himself, the leader of the bike gang who took fucking something to the head, and he just pops out of nowhere, and he ends up he's been in the barn this entire time for the rest of the movie, just doing fuck all. And then he comes out, he tries to fight, and he goes down again in 2 seconds. So once again, I think they could have done a lot more with the bicycle gang and the characters in Jason, making a nice kind of the gang thinks it's the kids killing them, the kids thinks it's the gang killing them, but it's Jason really killing all of them. And then we can get a nice little showdown at the end where the kids and the gang kind of form together and end up having to take out Jason. But yeah, you guys know the deal. It's didn't work out that way. It's your pretty standard Friday the 13th movie. There is some entertainment to be had with it. I'm gonna give it a 2.5 out of 5. I'm gonna say so far, I'll put this slightly below the second movie, and a little bit above the first one. So far, Friday the 13th Part One is down there at the bottom, and it's probably I don't know. I know for sure that there's not going to be another series that I review coming up where in this series of reviews where the first movie is the worst movie. But stay tuned for part 2. Make sure you go down, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, follow me on all my social media, continue the conversation. Let me know what you think of Friday the 13th Part 3. Is this your favorite? Is this your least favorite? Let me know. I'd love to know your guys' thoughts. But yeah, stay tuned. Part 4 coming soon. I'll see you guys soon. Peace. I'm out of here.